Africa has witnessed countless struggles and victories throughout history. But there remains one story so dark, so horrifying, that even today it echoes through the lands of Central Africa. The story of a European king who turned an entire nation into his personal business empire. This is the untold story of King Leopold II of Belgium, the man whose hunger for wealth and power cost over 10 million African lives. Under his rule, the Congo Free State became a nightmare, a land drenched in blood, where the lives of millions of men, women and children were destroyed for rubber and ivory. Today on Africarized, we uncover the truth behind one of the greatest crimes of colonialism. Before we begin, don't forget to like this video if you like this topic. The king's obsession with empire. To understand the horror that unfolded in Congo, we must first understand the man behind it. King Leopold II was not your ordinary European monarch. Born in 1835, he became King of Belgium in 1865, a small European country with no colonies, no vast empire, and little global influence. But Leopold was an ambitious man. He wanted more, not just for Belgium, but for himself. At the time, European powers were scrambling to divide Africa, the scramble for Africa. The British, French, Germans, and Portuguese were carving up territories and stealing resources, all under the false banner of civilization and progress. Leopold saw Africa as a gold mine waiting to be seized. He wanted a colony, not for Belgium, but as his personal property. He disguised his greed behind humanitarian language, pretending to be on a mission to bring Christianity and civilization to Africa. In 1876, he founded the International African Association, a so-called charitable organization. On paper, it was meant to promote science and end slavery. But in truth, it was a front, a clever disguise to grab land and wealth. Then came the explorer Henry Morton Stanley, famous for finding Dr. Livingstone in Africa. Leopold hired Stanley to explore Central Africa and claim land for him. Through deceit and manipulation, Stanley tricked local chiefs into signing treaties they couldn't read. Those papers handed over control of vast territories to Leopold. By 1885, at the infamous Berlin Conference, European powers formally recognized Leopold's claim to the Congo Basin, a land roughly the size of Western Europe. He called it the Congo Free State, a misleading name for what would become one of the most brutal regimes in human history. The Congo Free State, a personal empire of blood. The Congo Free State was not a Belgian colony. It was King Leopold's private business. Every tree, every river, every person belonged to him. What followed was nothing short of hell on earth. Leopold's soldiers and agents forced millions of Congolese people into labor camps to extract rubber, the new gold of the industrial world. The 1890s saw a boom in the global rubber industry. Cars, bicycles, and factories needed it, and Leopold wanted to supply the world. But the price of his fortune was African lives. Villages were ordered to meet impossible rubber quotas. If a man failed, his wife or child could be taken hostage. If he resisted, his hands were cut off, proof to the soldiers that their bullets weren't wasted. This gruesome policy became a symbol of Leopold's terror. The king's private army, the Force Publique, enforced these orders. It consisted of European officers and African soldiers forced into service. Their task was simple: terrorize the people into submission. Reports from witnesses described villages burned to ashes, children mutilated, women taken as slaves, and men whipped until their flesh fell off. The whip, known as the 𝒄𝐿, was made from hippopotamus hide, each lash tearing skin and muscle apart. But rubber wasn't the only thing Leopold stole. He also exploited Congo's ivory, copper, and diamonds, all of which made him one of the richest men in Europe. In Belgium, Leopold built monuments, palaces, and museums using the wealth of Congolese suffering. He was celebrated as a visionary king, while his victims' screams echoed in African forests. The world starts to notice. For years, the world knew little about what was happening deep inside the Congo. Leopold had sealed the territory from journalists and missionaries, controlling the narrative. He called it a civilizing mission, bringing progress to Africa. But truth has a way of escaping. Stories began to leak out, horrifying tales of amputations, massacres, and mass starvation. Missionaries who visited Congo wrote letters describing the atrocities they witnessed. One man who uncovered the truth was Edmund Dean Morel, a British shipping clerk. While inspecting ships from Congo, he noticed a strange pattern. Ships arrived in Belgium filled with ivory and rubber, but returned with guns and chains. He realized this was no trade, it was slavery. Morel quit his job and started a campaign to expose Leopold's crimes. He founded the Congo Reform Association, one of the first human rights movements in history. Soon after, 𝒂𝒂𝒏𝒚𝒍, a British diplomat, was sent to investigate. What he found shocked the world. His official report, known as the Casement Report of 1904, documented the horrors of forced labor, torture, and systematic killings. The report caused outrage in Europe and America. Writers, activists, and churches demanded justice. Among those who supported the cause was author Mark Twain, who wrote King Leopold's Soliloquy, a sarcastic attack on the king's lies and hypocrisy. Leopold tried to defend himself, calling the reports exaggerations. He even hired public relations agents to clean his image. But the evidence was undeniable. The world had seen the truth. The end of a tyrant. By 1908, the pressure on Leopold became unbearable. He was forced to give up his private colony to the Belgian government. The Congo Free State became the Belgian Congo. But make no mistake, the suffering didn't end overnight. Belgium continued to exploit Congo for its resources, especially its minerals, while the Congolese remained subjects, not citizens. It wasn't until 1960, over half a century later, that Congo finally gained independence under the leadership of Patrice Lumumba, the nation's first prime minister. Lumumba's dream was to unite the country and free it from neo-colonial control. But his rule was short-lived. In 1961, he was assassinated, his death supported by Western powers who feared a strong, independent Congo. Yet his name, like that of Simon Kimbangu, the imprisoned preacher who defied colonial rule, lives on as a symbol of resistance and pride. The legacy of Leopold. When Leopold died in 1909, he was still celebrated in Belgium as a national hero. Monuments were built in his honor, streets named after him, and his statues still stand in parts of Europe today. But to Africans, he will forever be remembered as a butcher, a man whose greed caused one of the first genocides of the modern era. Historians estimate that 10 million Congolese perished under his rule. That's nearly half the population at the time, wiped out by forced labor, starvation, disease, and violence. The scars of his reign remain visible even today. Congo, rich in minerals like cobalt and diamonds, continues to face exploitation by foreign corporations, a modern echo of Leopold's empire. It reminds us that colonialism didn't end. It simply changed form. And yet, through centuries of pain, the spirit of the Congolese people has not been broken. From the early resistance of Simon Kimbangu to the modern struggles for justice and sovereignty, Congo's story is one of resilience, not defeat. Conclusion. The story of King Leopold II is not just history, it is a warning. It reveals how greed, racism, and unchecked power can destroy millions of lives. It forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about colonialism and about how the world was built on the backs of those who were enslaved, silenced, and forgotten. But the people of Africa, then and now, have shown that even in the face of darkness, the human spirit cannot be conquered. From Congo's forests to the plains of Zimbabwe, from the Nile to the Cape, the heartbeat of Africa continues to rise. So, as we tell these stories, we do more than remember, we reclaim. We reclaim our history, our pride, and our narrative. If you believe in telling Africa's truth, support Africarized. Visit Africarized Shop, your destination for African-inspired apparel, art, and accessories. Each piece celebrates our culture, our resilience, and our story. Wear the pride. Tell the story. Because Africarized is more than a brand. It's a movement to reclaim Africa's narrative, one story at a time. Don't forget to subscribe on your way out and share this video to help others learn the real story of King Leopold and the Congo genocide. I'm 𝒂𝒊𝒔𝒆😅, and this is Africarized, where African stories are told by Africans for the world to hear.